Hi, this is Dr. Rodger Murphree, your FibroDoctor.com, author of Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. Who and why does someone get fibromyalgia? Fibromyalgia, as I explained in an earlier video, is a group of symptoms: diffuse achy muscle pain, low energy, low moods, anxiety, irritable bowel, restless leg syndrome. It's a group of symptoms that people have in common, and we call it fibromyalgia. But the question has got to be on your mind: why do I have fibromyalgia? Well, after treating thousands of patients with fibromyalgia over the last 20 years, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that, as I mentioned in an early video, stress is the catalyst for the disease, and that there's two categories of fibromyalgia patients that really kind of set the stage for them developing fibromyalgia. So one of those is the type A. And you might be a type A. Are you a doer? Are you a person that, you were the super mom, and maybe you worked 40 hours a week, but you were on the PTA, you volunteered at your church, you made sure all your kids were at their, the soccer games, the recitals, whatever it is, and, you were a doer, right? You did and you did and you did. And, over the years, you started developing, seeing some aches and pains. Maybe your sleep, got off a little bit and started getting a little run down, but you just ignored it. You just pushed through because you're a doer. So you did and you did and you did and you did, but then one day you were done out. And you can probably remember when that was. There was something that came along that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and you've never been the same. It could have been a surgery, it could have been loss of a loved one, it could have been you finally had it at work, or maybe your marriage ended sadly in divorce, but something came along and you just couldn't do it any longer. Your body finally shut down and you couldn't handle it. Now, I also take care of the type Bs, and the type Bs are the caregivers. So I take care of a lot of professional caregivers, a lot of doctors and nurses and people in the healthcare industry who give a lot. They're givers, professional caregivers. But I also take care of a lot of people who are the caregiver in their family. So they may have a special needs child that they take care of, or maybe they have an elderly parent, or maybe they have a spouse that needs a lot of attention because of health reasons. But you don't have to be the caregiver for someone's health. You could also be the go-to person in your family that everybody dumps on, everyone shares with you. Or you might be the go-to person for your church or your neighbors or your friends, and they're always expecting you, or maybe you put this on yourself, but you're always giving. You always give, and you give and you give and you give and you give, and one day you've given out. Something happens again that comes along and you're never the same again. Typically, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of my patients, a lot of people in the fibromyalgia community, they don't have a lot of plasticity. Something happened in their childhood and they gotten under a lot of stress, and eventually they can't rebound to stress like other people do. And what we see is their hypothalamus, the gland I talked about in an earlier video, is supposed to regulate the different systems in the body. That starts to shut down, and because of that, it can't regulate these systems and you start developing symptoms. But who gets fibromyalgia and why someone gets fibromyalgia is largely dictated by your personality, or who you are, who God made you as a person. And you can't really change that. But for type A's, you push, push, push until finally you are done. For caregivers, type B's, you gave and gave and gave until you're done. And now the key is figuring out where you're broken down. Because you need to realize that, as I've mentioned a few times, you probably caught this, fibromyalgia is just a name. Fibromyalgia doesn't cause pain. Fibromyalgia doesn't cause low energy. Fibromyalgia doesn't cause low moods, restless leg syndrome, weight gain. Doesn't cause any of those things. Fibromyalgia is just a name given to a group of symptoms that people have in common. And in the conventional medical world, it's all about treating the different symptoms of fibromyalgia. So the problem with that is there's so many daggum symptoms. Where do you start? And typically, because there's so many symptoms, if you do go the drug route, you're on half a dozen to a dozen drugs. A drug to put you to sleep, a drug to wake you up, a drug to speed you up, a drug to slow you down. The only way, and I believe this after treating thousands of patients around the world and having success doing so, is the only way to feel good again and to stay that way is you got to get healthy. And I know that sounds so simplistic, but it's really the only thing that works. And the first place to start is is what are the underlying causes of your symptoms. You don't have a drug deficiency. What we want to know is what's causing the pain, what's causing the low energy, what's causing the brain fog. Once you start to treat the underlying causes, now you have the opportunity to start getting healthier. And as you start getting healthier, your God-given, innate, inborn healing systems, these mechanisms that we all have inside of us, start to work like they're supposed to. So in the next few videos that I'm going to share with you is all going to be about the Murphree method. The Murphree method is a process that I've developed over the last 20 years to help my patients with fibromyalgia get healthier and start to feel good again. It's a process based on looking at what are the underlying causes of the different symptoms and starting to fix the underlying causes instead of treating the symptoms with drugs or therapies or supplements. It's based on an approach that is a step-by-step proven mechanism that when it happens, patients start to get their life back, start to feel good again, start to get healthy, start to be able to do things that they haven't been able to do in many years. So I encourage you in the next set of videos, you might want to take some notes. It's all about the Murphree method, the method that I've pioneered to help thousands of patients get healthier and feel good again. So sit back and wait for the next videos on the Murphree method. I look forward to sharing those with you in the next go around.